What we've seen over the past 7 months at the Mueller investigation reveals a lot about how big government can end up becoming a threat to representative democracy. And the more we look at the web of Clinton and Obama loyalists who burrowed into Mueller's office, the more obvious it all becomes. There were a number of highly influential and powerful people working inside the Obama administration who were not only horrified about the idea of Donald Trump winning the presidency, they were intent on preventing him from being elected by any means necessary. And if that meant applying for a FISA warrant based on a phony dossier in order to spy on the campaign, maybe they'd do it. And if it meant deploying the entire mainstream media apparatus into DEFCON 1 mode, hyperventilating about Russia collusion 24/7, they'd do it. And today, if it requires floating a specious story alleging that the president has early onset dementia, well, they'll do that too. Or maybe spreading damaging falsehoods from anonymous sources that are later parroted and then retracted by major news organizations. Yeah, they'll do that too. And if it means propagating the idea that Don Trump Jr., Jared, and the president were in some conspiracy with the old KGB to throw the election, no problem. Whatever it takes. As a former Mueller investigator, Peter Strzok, put it, they needed an insurance policy to stop Trump. Going on to reference a meeting in Andy's office, and why is that significant? Well, here's the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Bob Goodlatte.
Andy is presumably Andrew McCabe, the deputy director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This text is very troubling because it suggests that they're doing something. They have a plan to take action to make sure that Donald Trump does not get elected president of the United States in the highest levels of the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Now, this entire investigation, these texts, all of it, this has become a complete farce. They have an unlimited budget. They have an unlimited staff. They have basically an unlimited term. Mueller's team can stay on the hunt forever how long they want. It's insane. The founders never envisioned that a separate office inside the executive branch could hire a bunch of agenda-driven investigators in search of a crime by the head of the executive branch. I mean, if Congress wants to get rid of the president, they have a way to do that. It's called impeachment. That's their constitutional prerogative. But this deal with Mueller is now just totally out of hand. And at a minimum, a few things need to happen immediately in order to at least stabilize the situation. First, Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe must be fired, period. He allowed Strzok to be the lead investigator of the Russian investigation after he had been a key player in the ultimate exoneration of the Hillary Clinton email investigation. And remember, he helped Comey soften the language of his non-indictment indictment of Mrs. Clinton. And there's a lot of other things about Strzok we won't go into now, but you all know them by now. And whether McCabe actually conspired with Strzok and went to the FISA court to surveil the Trump campaign, that's really important, too, and that also has to be investigated. But a separate grounds for firing McCabe for cause may be the meeting Strzok references in his text messages, the thing that we just referenced. Because if true, McCabe actually took part in a discussion or actual planning, who knows, to subvert Trump's campaign, or maybe if he was elected, his ability to lead the government as president of the United States. That text message could be the smoking gun. And as for Bob Mueller himself, indeed, he has, throughout his career, served his country with honor and distinction. But that doesn't change the fact that right now, this investigation he's heading has become irreparably tainted. As the Wall Street Journal just put it, the man who should be most disturbed by all this is Mr. Mueller, who wants his evidence and conclusions to be credible with the public. Evidence is building instead that some officials at the FBI who've worked for him may have interfered in an American presidential election. Congress needs to insist that its rights as a co-equal branch of government exist to discover the truth. Now, I'm not calling for Mueller to be fired. It's tempting, but I'm not. But at the very least, he needs to put the brakes on this investigation, at least pause it for a bit. I agree with what Alan Dershowitz said on my radio show this morning. It's time for a respected, independent expert to come in and thoroughly examine the individuals conducting this probe and fire anyone inside who evinces even a hint of an appearance of a conflict of interest. That's all it should take. That's how high the stakes are. Otherwise, the public confidence in the Mueller operation will and should collapse under its own weight, these endless revelations of bias. And that's the angle.